Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Big Muslim Family Podcast. This is your host, Brother Mark Adam. I hope wherever you are around the world, you are healthy and safe, inshallah. In today's episode, we take a step into an area that I think quite a number of Muslims don't get much exposure to, especially depending on where you live. The Journey Back to Islam series is aimed at bringing to light the origins and journeys of our revert brothers and sisters and to highlight some of the struggles that they faced along the way. I think it's important for all of us, born Muslims, and those that have reverted, that we see this other side of the story. A lot of the time, being born Muslim, we don't realize how fortunate we are. For the reverts listening to this, I hope that the Journey Back to Islam series can help you feel that you are not alone, and these stories will help you on your own journeys, inshallah. My first guest for this series is Brother Ron, who I've known for nearly 15 years. His journey to Islam really started when he was getting ready for work on Long Island, New York on September 11th, 2001. Okay, everyone, welcome to the show. I have with me a friend that I've known for about 15, at least 15 years from my time in New York. So he's come here. He's wanted to share his story. He's currently living in Texas, just outside of Austin, Texas. And please, Ron, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you,
Welcome to the show. I'm good, alhamdulillah. And thank you for coming on here. And Ron's going to share his stories about how he came to Islam. But before we get to that, I kind of want to let's know a little bit about Ron first. Okay. So tell the listeners, where did you grow up?
Oh, I grew up on Huntington Station, Long Island. So that's New York. Sort of in the middle of Long Island, edge of Suffolk County into Nassau. I like to say I grew up on the south side of the tracks because there's a north side and a south side to Huntington, as I think there is in every town.
Yeah.
My dad was a taxi driver. My mom was a school aide. I went to Huntington High School in Long Island. You had a good mix of from rich to poor people, all in there. And it was interesting to see that mix, I have memories of my dad. We didn't have a car growing up, so my dad used to take the taxi home.
Right,
he would drive me to school in the taxi. And it was sort of, growing up, it was sort of embarrassing, not embarrassing, because there were kids from Huntington, North Huntington, who had their own cars. And so, Huntington's a cool place.
And did you have, are you an only child, or do you have a sibling?
Yeah. So my mom was married twice. So her first marriage, she had my brother Steve, my sister Sandra, my brother Scott. And then later on, when she married again, myself and my brother Sean, and we're 18 months apart. He's the older one. So I was the youngest. I was
the youngest from the batch. Yeah. the baby.
Yes. Yeah, I was the baby.
And what was it like? Did you? I know you're a big ice hockey fan, right?
Yes. New York Islanders all the way. They're Long Island grown.
So did you play yourself or?
No, so I found out I had pretty weak ankles when it came to skating. So I can skate. I can skate, not fast, but I ended up playing a lot of street hockey, deck hockey, which is off skates.
Okay.
My friends and I, every day after school, we play street hockey.
Okay. Yeah. So what's just because there's a thing called floorball. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Same thing, pretty much.
Same thing as well. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And
same thing.
And so you had a pretty, would you say, like a typical American childhood growing up, playing on the streets after school, watching He-Man, and
a lot different than now, right? I mean, we used to be able to just go out and play, and moms knew where we were, and take our bikes out, ride wherever.
Yeah.
Drink from the hose. All things you can't do now, apparently, but.
Yeah, it's a difference. A lot of changes, and I feel the change as well. And so, was there anything else you were into when you were growing up?
Art, photography.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that stuff. I was always into art. I laugh about it now because with my daughters and stuff is I can sit back and watch an episode of, Project Runway,
Okay.
and then 10 minutes later go watch a hockey game. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
I have that good balance.
Yeah, but that's all right.
But I did. I grew up liking art and
Yeah.
photography and just the outdoors. I wasn't much of a camper, but I liked being outside.
Well, sometimes if sport is played really well, it can be a form of art, you know?
It can be. I didn't create in sports.
Well, we do what we can, right? We do what we can.
Yes.
And do you think, were you very religious growing up? Were you coming from a religious family? Or?
No, so I'll tell you this. My mom was born Jewish.
Okay.
And probably when I was around 13, my dad had gotten throat cancer.
Oh.
And in the time that he was in the hospital, it was a pretty long time, my mom actually had a friend who was a born-again Christian.
Okay.
And she would come every day with my mom to the hospital. They would pray over my dad, and it actually made my mom convert to Christianity. You know, there were some moments that she felt something that drew her to Christianity. And there was something, I don't want to badmouth the Jewish temples in that area at that time, but we didn't have a lot of money. You know what I mean? And my mom went to the temples for help, and they were basically like, well, if you're not a member, we can't really help you, you know? Wow. So he was kind of turned off with that, you know, and from what I remember. But yeah, it was her friend that really drew into Christianity. So, you know, that was really it for her. But I didn't really have any religion growing up. I can remember vividly going into churches, and I guess maybe it was my artistic background, whatever, but I remember as a young kid going in there and just being amazed by the windows, you know.
Oh yeah, the stained glass windows.
You know. Yeah. And then it was the smell of the myrrh.
Oh,
I was just attracted to the smell of myrrh. Yeah,
you know what myrrh smells like?
I was insane. Because I was young, and I'm like, "What's that smell?" You know.
Yeah. Is that frankincense?
yeah, the frankincense and myrrh is all that. But that's what kept me. Like, I just remember that was my interest there. I didn't have an interest in what was being said back then. You know, I didn't know.
All right. Yeah.
It wasn't. My mom didn't really indoctrinate us into any Christian belief or anything like that.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a personal thing.
And so I didn't really grow up with anything. As I got older, I discovered my Native American side from my father. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
And that kind of drew me to more of a Native Americanism.
Okay.
Path, you know.
Yeah.
So
what sorry, I'm a little bit ignorant in this. So what the kind of like what would that mean for you? Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, so quick story was that in high school, I had my cousins. I grew up with my cousins who were very dark. You know, some were African American and some were Native American. Okay. I just thought everybody was African American.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. In high school, my cousins were like, "No, bro, you're Montaukett. You know, you belong to your family. Your lineage goes back to the Montaukett tribe of Long Island." My dad, all of that was kind of taken out of him when he was younger at some point. So it was never taught to me. So I had to discover that on my own, and I found out, wow, you know, this is pretty strong lineage. You know, so to me, you know, when I was kind of discovering that, it was more about the connection to nature and your inner self, and what relates to how you act and how you are when it comes to the natural world, and how we as people, you know, take advantage of the natural world instead of embracing it and, you know, being a part of it, you know. So that's kind of where I was, you know, as I got into my late teens and my 20s and stuff like that, you know.
That's deep, man. That's that's really getting connected back to, you know, the earth and the I had a kind of because like when I grew up, I didn't really have a really strong Muslim upbringing. I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but I was kind of getting into these things like, you know, I'd pray and things like that, but I didn't really know what was going on. So I'd be going into things like what do you call these things? Like learning about like rocks, healing properties of
Mm-hmm.
stones and
Mm-hmm.
chakras and things like that. And
Right.
so yeah, I was kind of getting into that sort of like territory. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, so it's later on. I mean, there's a space for that, but I don't think that you
Yeah.
should base your whole
Right.
life around it. But
Yeah.
it's, I was yeah, it was kind of like one of those what do you call it? Like just like kind of, I wouldn't say hippies, but like
Yeah. No.
it was kind of one of those gatherings where they were like
Yes.
like I was fascinated about the idea of auras.
Mm.
And I have my aura photoed, I think, and and I had, so anyway, at this point in your life, did you know anything about Islam? Or?
At that point, no. I'd say the closest I got to it was somebody in college had given me a book of Rumi poems.
Oh, okay.
And that was because I was an artist. I was into poetry and stuff, and I found this book. I thought you'd like it. I don't even remember the name of it. But it was just this book of Rumi poems. And, when I had the book, I was like, wow, Rumi, that's cool. Started reading up a little bit and realized, his full name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was really reading that name itself was the closest I got to anything Islamic or anything. You know what I mean?
Oh,
to
okay.
me, it was the closest I got. I would say, and I've told this story before, I would say the one thing that the sad thing that that kind of introduced me to Islam was CNN.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
was it the war, the Iraq War?
No, it wasn't the Iraq War. It was what I realized later on in life. It was a video of I think it was the Women's Islamic Guard in Iran.
Okay.
And, they were marching down the street.
Right.
And they had M16s,
Oh, okay.
And then, and then they cut to, and I don't know why this video was up. I just remember seeing it, and it was probably, I want to say freshman year of college, maybe 12th grade, you know what I mean? And it was that, and then there was a shot of Shia Muslims, and I correct me if I'm wrong. I forgot what holiday it was, where they were chaining. They were chains.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not something I want to be a part of, because I just saw the image.
Yeah, the images.
So. Yeah, that was the closest I ever got, and really, I didn't. What's interesting to me, and I could say this, was so I was into certain styles of music back then, like industrial music and electronic, and there were certain bands I listened to that when I first listened to them, I didn't realize that they were actually introducing me to the Islamic world.
Oh, really?
It's really interesting, because there were certain songs that I know one song that he actually did like almost like a news brief about the Iran-Iraq war. And it was just interesting, it was just going back and forth, and I didn't think about it till a few years later, and I'm like, wow, it was always there,
Yeah.
And I used to joke with some of my other friends later on, like my Muslim friends, because I always wore and maybe it was this church that started it, because I always wore oils that were frankincense and myrrh.
Oh, okay.
It was really funny, and I just kept that going. So there were these little things peppered in there, but yeah, it wasn't until 9/11. That's we can go there, but that's the one thing that opened my eyes to, the journey. Yeah.
And I guess, you like coming from Long Island, New York, but were you in Long Island at that time, or
Yes, I was on Long Island. I was getting ready to go to work in Westbury, and it's Long Island, so train ride to New York is about 50 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever.
Okay.
In Manhattan.
Uh-huh.
And I was actually, it's interesting because I shouldn't laugh about it, but I was eating a bowl of Cheerios. I just had this memory.
Okay.
And my dad was there, and I was eating a bowl of Cheerios, and the news broke in, saying, oh, there's a fire at the Twin Towers. And I had a spoonful right here in my mouth, and we both watched another plane hit the other tower. And my dad said, that's no fire. And I was just like, I got to call work. I got to see what's going on, And
were you working in town? Or
not in Manhattan.
Oh, Manhattan. Okay.
Yeah, still on Long Island. You know what I mean? But they were like, well, come in and we don't know what's going on. There's something happening in Manhattan. And as I'm driving to work, people are kind of pulled over on the side. So I finally pulled over into, I think it was I want to say it was a Wendy's or something. I pulled over because there's all these people outside in the parking lot, and there are people inside, and they're watching the news. So I watched the towers fall at this Wendy's, and and everybody starts freaking out, around me, and I remember one guy yelling out, it's terrorists, it's Muslims, that's when it all started, and, so I get to work and my job's like, just go home. There's nothing. And it was retail, they're like, we're shutting down for the day,
Yeah.
And I'm driving home and my windows are open. The news is on. And this guy pulls up next to me and he's like, we're going to excuse me. This is as real as it gets. Folks,
okay.
This is,
all right. Well, I remember, take a note down to beep that out.
Okay. Yeah. Beep that out, please. Because this is as real as it gets. This was as scary as it gets because this guy in the car next to me was screaming, cursing left and right, saying, we're going to kill every single one of them. I'm like, who? He goes, those Afghani Muslims, we're going to kill them all. We're going to kill them all. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I go home, whole thing happens. I remember everything was shut down. There's fighter jets flying over at night. All the airports were closed,
Yeah.
And within the next couple of days, I used to hang out at this Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
We used to have, just know people.
Back when Barnes and Noble were around, right?
Yeah. yeah. And, there's a paper back on Long Island called the New York Post.
Yep.
And at least back then, it was pretty right wing,
Yeah.
Okay. And on the cover was something about the Quran, and it had a picture of a devil. And it said, this is what the Quran says. I open it up and I'm looking at it, and it's, of course, it's the famous kill all infidels, you know what I mean? And here's their interpretation of infidels, and then I'm like, man, so here I am, I'm at Barnes and Noble, and I'm like, so I walk over and I'm like asking one of the guys, and I'm like, hey, you got Qurans here? And he's like, yeah, right over here in that section. And
he was pretty chill about it.
yeah, he was pretty chill about it. I know.
You're like the 20th guy to come in here and ask for Qurans.
So I took a Quran, didn't know where to start, just started from the beginning, and just started looking through it. Yeah. And the Post was kind enough to put some, pages down in the Quran, So I'm flipping through it, and I've got the Post open and I've got the Quran open, and I'm like, doesn't say that. Reading the Post again, and I'm like, doesn't say that either. And I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
So that was actually an opening right there. That was the opening for me, and at that time I had met who was to be my wife eventually. She was on there with friends, and I found out she was Muslim. So I started asking her questions.
Oh, okay.
And so we just started talking back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's when the Mecca Center came into the picture.
Right. So, all right. So just for those who are listening to this, so the Mecca Center is a center that I helped to create in New York, in Manhattan, with my aunt and a few others. So it was to really help what we were seeing. It was back into the mid 2000s. We were seeing a lot of people who were converting to Islam, but there was no support system for them. So they would come in. What was happening was I'd convert, say I'd convert, and then the imam or whatever, they just say, okay, you learn Quran, you learn Arabic. This is the first thing. So, and I think and a lot of people they didn't have a support. They didn't, because they're coming from American family, American backgrounds. They don't have anyone to talk to. That's the same, because a lot of the imams and that are from their parent country, like Pakistan or the Middle East. So they just say, oh, you want to learn Islam? You learn Arabic first. You learn the Quran first. And I think that was where we wanted to come in and help all of that. So, and that's where I met Brother Ron here. And with your wife, how did she feel at that time?
So, yeah, she was, I mean, when I was talking to her and getting to know her, it was scary, being on that time and everything. But I could say that she too was looking to build upon her Islam, that she was born with, and so we were talking with friends, and she had friends and everything. And I was like, yeah, it'd be great if I could just, find a class. I want to take a class to learn more.
Yeah.
I honestly, I wasn't even thinking of converting. I just wanted to learn more. Just give me a class, something. And back then there really wasn't any online stuff, that you could, go and go to. So
it's not recommended as well, I guess.
Yeah. So then at that time, I think one year there was the Muslim Day Parade in Manhattan.
Oh,
I remember that. It was the Muslim Day Parade, and you guys had a booth out there, a table.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The center logo on it. I remember we were just hanging around, and we're like, "Yo, look over there!" And it was a Converts, whatever. And I looked at it and I took a flyer. I honestly don't remember who was there.
Would have been my aunt. Might have been my aunt.
Yeah, it could have been. And we were just looking at it. And we was like, this might be good. Yeah, so I remember.
I'm trying to think of the timeline, but I think it might have been 2005. So from 2001 to 2005, you were just searching by yourself. Is that?
Yeah.
Was there any other books you were reading apart from the Quran?
Gosh, it was probably some stuff on Buddhism. Still keeping my Native Americanism going. And at that time, what was happening was this transition, because I realized that a long time that being outdoors and enjoying that and enjoying nature, and that's a whole other podcast I could talk about nature. But I realized I knew the creation, but I never knew the creator.
Oh, wow.
So that's what kind of, that bridge was happening, that bridge was forming.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, as it got, it's crazy, because when you think about it,
that's deep, man. I've got goosebumps.
I could sit there. Whoa. I could sit there and appreciate, the sunrise. I could appreciate to me, okay, one of the things I love in life, and I haven't had it in a long time because I've been in Texas, but the silence of a snowfall.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Quiets down, and all of those things in nature that is there in nature, but I never understood the creator of it, So that bridge was forming, it was happening right in front of my eyes. I didn't realize it at the time, it was there. And once the Mecca Center hit, that was like, okay, we're gonna go check this out. Let's just see what's the worst that can happen. And I remember I was nervous as heck, man.
Oh yeah, we were nervous too. We were nervous because it's like, okay, what are these guys gonna think about us?
Well, the funny part is I was nervous up until I saw Tyler walk in.
Oh yeah, man.
And I was like, okay. See, if he's coming this far, he's stretching himself out. That's good.
That's okay. Then I can do it.
Yeah, I can do this,
So for those who are listening, Tyler was another classmate of Ron's in the initial class. So Tyler is this ex-biker who had a shaved head, goatee, arm tattoos, and but he was a really nice guy, man. But you look at him and you go, are you supposed to be here? But he was there, and he wanted to learn. And he was there, happy to share. And alhamdulillah. Anyway, I hope that Tyler, if you're out there, I hope that you're well, and inshallah, we'll meet again.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm a little bit. I wanted to talk to you. I was talking to someone who was from. Well, her family was from like West Sahara.
Okay.
And part of the family was like, I can't remember. She was telling me that it was like the Bedouins. Right? They were living out in the deserts, and she was saying that the reason why they were out there because that they just felt that they had a connection to the heavens and to the land, and that's why they didn't really want to give up, like to live in society, because they would lose this connection to land. And I think one of the things that from the conversation we were talking about is like, you know, when you're out there, when you're out in the desert, and you have a clear signal to the heavens. Yes. Like you have this clear energy signal to the heavens, and you have that connectedness. And I think that's why we as humans, you know, when we get out in nature, we just, everything like fades away, and then we just feel a bit more with the land, I think. So absolutely. Yeah, but when you're talking about that quote about, you know, you knew the creation, but you didn't know the creator. That's deep, man. And so all right, just jog my memory, because when you came to the class, you weren't a Muslim yet. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I wasn't a Muslim yet. You and Salim.
Yeah,
that class going, and it was interesting. It really was, because honestly, I thought it was going to be an older guy walking in, you know. I'm like, who are these young guys? You know, and you guys just laid it down very easily, very openly, I should say, which was great. You know what I mean? Because, you know, it's kind of, as people that may be interested, you're just going there with all of these questions and already ideas implanted in your head. You know, like I said, CNN, you know, you've got those things in your head that you grew up with, you know, and, you know, out of ignorance or whatever, you just never went farther to look for it. And here you guys are, and here we are, and you're presenting to us, and we're still okay. But so I remember there was a lot of challenging stuff too, you know, a lot of stuff I wanted to ask you guys. It was like, yeah, but what about this, you know? Right. And I remember you guys were very calm with everything, and it's just like, you know, it's basically like one step at a time, you know? Yeah. And it's just, you know, breathe in, breathe out. Just, you know, it's a lot, you know what I mean? And I think for a convert, that's what it is. You know, it's just this whole, you know, not to quote Disney movie, but it is a whole new world. You know, it's like you get in there and it's like,
that is the correct Disney movie if you're going to quote.
You know, Aladdin said it, you know, best. But I mean, really, when you think about it, it is, because it's just to Americans, especially, you know, it's a foreign concept in some ways, you know. Right. Yeah. It really is. Even to this day, I meet people that have no understanding of it. You know, right. They're open to ask me. And you know, and then they really mean it. They want to, you know, they're questioning and they're curious. And so I tell them, no question's stupid. You know what I mean? I mean, gosh, you know what I mean? If you don't know, you don't know, you know? Yeah. So, I think that night I left class I actually called Salim and converted over the phone.
Oh, the first class or what?
Yeah, that was the first class.
Oh, man. I don't. I'm sorry. I can't remember that far back. But oh wow!
I think if I'm correct, you guys had that newsletter. I remember that newsletter, and you called it the Roadside Shahada.
Roadside.
Yeah, you guys. I think it was. Yeah, you guys.
No, my one was not the. Which one?
That was an article in the newsletter.
Oh, okay.
Article in the newsletter.
Halal apple pie.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
An article in you guys titled it the Roadside Shahada. Because I called up Salim and said, hey, if somebody wanted to, you know, become Muslim, do I have to be there in person? Or he's just like, no, we could do it over the phone.
Yeah. That's the wonderful thing, right? I mean, that officially a couple of people around you, but otherwise, wow, I really can't remember about that.
It's been a long time, man.
So what it was just a feeling, or?
Yeah, well, like I was saying, that bridge was forming, you know, and I just think it was the way you guys, you know, presented it, and I had this overwhelming feeling and this urge, you know, that was there, you know, and it was like it was just pushing me. It was either now or never, you know what I mean? It was like. It wasn't necessarily forced, you know, but it was just a feeling. I just had a feeling, you know.
Alhamdulillah.
And it, you know, for me, I never would have thought that, like it just happened, and
That's good, man. I'm really, alhamdulillah, I'm really feel blessed that I was a part of that. That really means a lot to me. So, and a lot of times when people convert to Islam, we always say that there's going to be some tests, all right? Because there's Allah's gonna test you, Say, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, you took a step. All right, you're gonna keep going.
Yes.
So, do you remember any particular struggles that you faced?
I mean, Mark, I'll be honest. There's still struggles, going on. You know what I mean? There are always going to be tests and struggles, But I would say back then, hey, let's see. So, I converted after my parents passed away, I believe. So I'm trying to remember, gosh, but I mean, just friends in general, family, it was almost like nerve-wracking to say anything, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because as open as I wanted to be with it, I was still nervous about it, because I was freewheeling, you know what I mean? I didn't have a religion, it was like, it's like, no, I'm Ron, I don't need that. Thank you, but, and then suddenly it was just like, took a step forward to something else, and so I think challenges came in just myself being okay with being open about it, and stuff like that. And I can say there are still times where sometimes I may take a step back or two, depending on a situation or something, I don't think we're ever, we're never not tested, you know what I mean? So yeah, there was never any really big tests. It's just,
so it's more of a personal thing of coming on and knowing where you're from, and then suddenly, hey everyone, look, I'm a Muslim now.
Right.
Hey there, Brother Mark Adam here. I hope you're enjoying the episode. This podcast is still very new, and we're looking to grow and reach out to more brothers and sisters from around the world. It would mean so much to us if you could share this podcast with just one person in your life. If not, could you leave a positive review on whatever podcast site you are listening to this on? It would really help. Jazakallah khair. And now, back to the episode. So how long did it take who was the first person then you would, like, from your family or your friends?
Probably my brother, Sean. Probably my brother, if I can remember,
Okay.
And then, gosh, I can remember, and my sister Sandra at one time, she came into New York and we picked her up from the airport, and I had told her beforehand, that I had converted, and I love her to death, gosh, I love my family. But I think, back then she was scared for me and nervous, and I don't think she knew a lot about Muslims. And I remember she got in the car and she said something to the effect of, so are you going to join a terrorist group now?
All right, so she's prepping for it.
I literally thought she was joking, but she wasn't joking, And I was just like, "What?" I eased her worries, because like I said before, it's just a lack of knowledge, and certain things, and to say it is like, it's like, here in America, especially you look at it nowadays, right, with everything going on, the premise of this being a Christian nation,
right?
And well, yes, everybody has freedom of religion, but Christian nation, so let's not, So I think a lot of people don't even take the time to understand it, or learn about it. They may be like me; they just watch CNN and and whatever media they have, and they learned about it that way.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. That is difficult for converts. You know what I mean? For reverts, because we take the step forward. We go to learn about it. We say, yes, this has embraced my heart. This is what I want, God willing, this is what I'm going to go forward with. Mm-hmm. But to come out to everybody else, you know what I mean, who you may hear around you saying horrible things about Muslims or this and that,
Yeah.
That's the big step, that's the scary one for a lot, That's why you need that critical support, around you. Yeah, you need that critical support because, especially, we know that, right, during the fasting months and everything, it's so hard, you know what I mean? Because, man, you're on your own, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
You need to have that critical support. It's so big for everybody,
So, like, so then what about work-wise? How was it? How did they take it at work,
I would say also, I remember my one job, and you know what? I would even take a step back for a second because I now just had memories of this. My one job, right before I converted, I was looking at, the Quran and stuff. And I told my boss, and he was a big time Christian. And she goes, I don't ever want to hear you say that again.
Oh, wow.
I said, I'm sorry, what? She goes, I just don't want to talk about it with you. I don't want to talk about it with you. I'm like, you're not my girlfriend. You're not my anything. You know what I mean? You're my boss. You know what I mean? Right. And I don't think that's in the, book anywhere, so, it was just this crazy thing, and she just, and I was like, well, I'm just looking at it. I'm just curious. I don't, no. Okay. So afterwards, it was like, we just never talked about it.
Okay.
Just never discussed it. We were good on a work level,
right.
But we never really talked about it, and, I think eventually she opened up to things, but I don't think it was anything that she would go further into,
Yeah.
So at that time at work, I did not pray, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did not even, venture into that realm, It was just me being uncomfortable with it, and it was them making me uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
And everything. So, and you know what, Mark, and I think you know me, or you knew me, and then there's one thing I always am, is I'm always honest, you know what I mean? And there are times I still struggle with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do. I still struggle with it, even today. I've always described my journey as this wicked roller coaster, and it's a combination of, my own determination, my own discipline, letting myself get affected by the atmosphere around me.
Yeah.
It's a combination of all that, so I still struggle with certain things, and I find myself back there, I'm good, and then I struggle again, then I'm back and I'm good, so I never ever would, and that goes for anybody, really, any human. I never judge anybody, at all. I can't, you know what I mean? Because I know where I stand,
Yeah.
And so as long as it's been this amazing wicked roller coaster for me, that I love the ride, you know what I mean? I really do, I do. I love the ride. I'm glad I got on it, I love the journey.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to ask you. When you converted, did you have any doubts at any time?
It's crazy. I never had any doubts. I really didn't. I never had any doubts, Yeah. No, I really didn't have any doubts, it just felt right. It just felt right,
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
That's great.
It just so good, So, yeah.
And could you describe, we just go a couple of things. So you've converted, and then do you remember your first Ramadan?
Yeah. It was beautiful. It was a little bit of everything, I could say, because I could say, I could say this the struggle was real with the fasting. I can tell you that. You know,
I'm not sure if I was there when we were doing Ramadan.
I don't think so.
I'm not sure.
I don't think so, because I know, you know, I was a born grazer when it comes to eating.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, I'll just go back and forth. My mom used to find me in the fridge every 2 seconds, you know. So for me, yeah, it was a struggle, you know. It was a struggle. There are days today, sometimes it's still a struggle. But
yeah,
I always had, I kind of, you know, when I did marry my wife, she was always my rock. She was always my rock with Ramadan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I watched her, you know what I mean? I'm like, man, look at her. You know what I mean? She can do it. You know what I mean? It's like, so, you know, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I feel for converts all the time around that time. You know, it's like you man, you know what I mean? It's like, especially here in America, I think just our diet alone, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But do you have like, in where you, I mean, like you had the Mecca Center when you first converted.
Yes.
I guess you had those friends for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But were you, now that you've moved out to Austin, is there like, how's the community there? Are you involved?
Yeah. I'm trying to get myself more involved. My wife and I, there is a group called Muslim Space, which is really nice, really good. But I still to this day, and you know what? I'm not gonna accuse anybody. I'm gonna start with myself first. But I still have a hard time with the mosques, you know, feeling a connection, you know. A lot of times it is, see, I don't even want to say that. I don't want to say it's the imam, you know what I mean? But a lot of times it just feels like you're still kind of, sometimes you're outside looking in.
Right.
You know? But again, I don't want to put that on anyone until I put it on myself first.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? To kind of, maybe it's me just not taking enough steps, you know?
Well,
no.
So this is something I wanted to chat with you, like, you know, with your experience, what would you like to see improve for people who are converting to Islam?
Yeah. Gosh, I think in today's world, I mean, I would say, you know what, if a person converts and they're out there, I think definitely some sort of support group. And even if you can't physically support the person, you know, sounds silly, but I think even that, daily texts, you know what I mean, of support, you know, just reaching out, just constantly reaching out, you know, constantly reaching out. And I think being real with them from the beginning, you know what I mean? Like you had said before, like, you know, Allah's going to test you, you know what I mean? But being real with them, you know, and just saying, you know what, you may feel this, you may feel that, you may feel nothing at all, but knowing what society may bring towards you, you know, just to be prepared for that, knowing that you may feel a little alienation,
right?
You know, be prepared for that, and not to scare them off, but you know what, just to be real, you know, and give them that sense of understanding that it's going to be okay, you know, but it's almost like, you know, it's, I want to say it's going to feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Until you get comfortable with it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and that could take time, you know, but know that there are people here for you, you know? And, you know, we want to support you in any way we can, you know? Because it is a different feeling converting, and you're not from, you know, a Muslim country. You're not from, you know, you don't have that, you know, years of knowledge of it or living with it, you know, you're just coming into it. It's like walking into a building and not knowing what room to go to. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you give them the directions of the building. It's like, step inside. And then it's like, all right, what do I do now? Yeah. You know, so yeah, it's just a guided map of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, that's, that is still kind of, I think, missing. I talked to a brother from Chicago. But he said that over there they do have like a kind of like a program
Okay.
for converts who are coming.
Okay.
So, what advice would you give Muslims listening to this if they knew someone who's interested in converting to Islam?
I wouldn't say, so this sounds weird, but I wouldn't say hold their hand, but I would say,
Because that's haram. This is haram.
I would almost, oh gosh, it's really going to be like, hey, listen, if you know somebody and they're reaching out, it's almost like, I guess, you know what? Yeah, we have a duty to meet them halfway at least and say, hey, and that's why I say don't hold their hand, because you want them to know that, yeah, it's going to be a journey. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle. Like I said, until we get comfortable with it, but again, reach out to them, and I guess work with them on finding a good source, the scary thing for a lot of converts, especially American converts, is not knowing what's the right source. I remember when I converted, I'm like, I didn't want to go Pakistani. I didn't want to go Afghani. I just wanted to go Islam, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what happens, it's like, hey, join my team, hey, join our team.
Yeah. This our team is better. Oh.
Yeah, everybody's great. You know what I mean? But I just
we're all great, it's all just different.
And you know what? And really quick, since we're on that, the one thing that I would say almost turned me off to everything is, I know Islam has a history and a lot of it is political, but with converts, at least in my perspective, I wasn't prepared for the politics of it just yet.
Right. Yeah.
That started clouding everything for me, and that's not to say that, you shouldn't care about people in this country or that country, but I just wanted to know my Islam, and everything, anywhere I went, it started getting clouded over with,
Right.
This is what the Prophet said, peace be upon him, and this is what's going on in this country, you know what I mean, right now. And I'm like, yes, but I'm here, you know what I mean? And I'm a little bit lost, and I just want to know Islam, So.
No, that's really beautiful. I think, what you're saying is really, for a lot of people, you don't want to get caught up in, who's this person, who's that part, whatever. You just want, because, for you guys, it's very personal.
Yeah.
It's a choice that you made, and you don't want to be like influenced by all these other factors, right?
Right.
I think that's very powerful. Like, what is our relationship to God?
Right.
Yeah, and So, okay, so what advice would you give? Maybe I don't know who's gonna listen to this, but what advice would you give to people who are thinking about converting?
Mm-hmm.
And what would your advice be to them?
That's a good one. I would say research your sources, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Definitely research your sources. Don't be afraid to ask 1,000 questions. Don't be afraid. It's okay. I would say go visit a mosque or two, and see kind of, I guess, in your area, wherever you are, search out those sources and research them. That's my main thing, because I know in the beginning there were a lot of sources before Mecca Center. I was like, I'm not sure about that one.
Right.
I know I left this out. You're jarring so many memories in my head with my journey. As the first mosque I went into, I got yelled at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just walked in, and not knowing that it was the women's section, I started to walk towards that door. Towards that door.
Oh no!
The guy comes over and starts yelling at me. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm just screaming.
Uh-huh.
And I turned around and left. I left.
Oh, and he didn't find out what you were about, or
no, I just walked out and left.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it's, you may get that, it's okay, but don't leave,
brother. But don't get I mean, I shared this on another thing, but I too was kind of yelled at in, I don't know if you remember this story, but you know the Malcolm Shabazz masjid in Harlem?
Yes.
Malcolm X, yeah. So
Mhm.
in Singapore, we have, the masjids here, you can walk in and you pray on ground level, or you pray
Okay.
ground level and above, right?
Okay.
There's not many, like in the basement, and it's usually for the car parking, right? So
Okay.
I've walked in there, and this is, we're kind of like searching for, this is kind of like just before Mecca Center opened, we were searching for places to get on board with our project and things like that. So I've walked in there, and these two brothers in this corridor, there's like a desk there, and there's two brothers there, and I said, and he goes, I said, Assalamu alaikum. He said, Assalamu alaikum. He said, how can I help you? And I said, oh, I'd like to go upstairs. And in my head, I'm thinking upstairs, that's where you
Yeah.
pray. I can't see anywhere else you pray here. So it must be upstairs.
Right.
And he goes, oh, you want to go upstairs? Well, if you want to go upstairs, you need to make a booking and meet the person, and we'll take you on a tour upstairs, and, you can, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. So anyway, I left the number and stuff. And then I went out, because my aunt was trying to find a parking spot. So I went out, and then I saw a couple of brothers go in, and I was thinking, that's kind of weird. Like, if I want to pray, how does this work? Like, I have to, organize a prayer time. So I went back in, and I've gone, I was sorry. And what happens if you want to pray? Like, you want to pray? And he goes like, and he just looks at me. He goes, so what do you want? You want to go upstairs, or you want to pray? I'm like, oh, it's like, dude, why is it so hostile, man? I was like, whoa, man.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, look, I just want to pray. I'm like looking for a prayer or what, Lou?
Right.
Okay, you come in here telling you want to go upstairs. Well, we got classes upstairs. We got women and children upstairs. You can't just go up. I was like, oh, bro. I was like, really, it's very hostile to me. I was like, all right. And then I go, and then I said to him, because in my mind, it sounded right, but as soon as I said it, it was wrong. I said, yo, but look, I'm a brother, and this is in Harlem, man. And he's going, oh, so you're a brother now? Oh, well, I'll just let you go upstairs, walk everywhere you want. And I'm like, oh, jeez. So that's when I found out that to pray, there actually you have to go downstairs. There's like a basement where there's the prayer hall. And then he was like, oh, so you want to go pray now? I'm like, dude, I'm not in no mood to pray right now. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna go outside and go away from my aunt, and
yeah.
So yeah, so even a born Muslim can make these mistakes, man. But even I don't get it. So don't worry about too much. But so basically, it's just to have a gentle hand with people who are converting.
Absolutely.
And anyway, thank you so much. Is there any last things you'd like to say?
Oh gosh, I don't know, man. I miss everyone, man.
Oh, you miss,
I miss you guys, But no, I thank you so much for having me, man. This has been great. It's been great seeing you.
Can I just sorry to interrupt, but how do you think that being a Muslim has changed you personally?
Oh wow, it's definitely, if I can be honest, it's definitely kept my moral compass in line. I think also it has, like I had spoken of before with the creation and the creator, it's drawn me more to creation because I now know the creator.
Right.
It's helped me immensely, you know what I mean, with my heart and my brain connecting. It really has, man. It's I wish more people would understand. It's a beautiful thing, it really is.
Alhamdulillah. That's good. Alhamdulillah. Okay, brother. Thank you so much for coming on to the show, and really appreciate it, your sharing, and it was a great sharing session, and alhamdulillah, I felt it's good to see you again. And
Same here,
inshallah, we'll keep in touch, yes? Okay?
Inshallah. Yes.
Inshallah. All right. Okay, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam, Mike. You take care.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I love Brother Ron's story, and I'm so thankful that I was a part of his journey to Islam. I really love the fact that his love of nature, and coupled now with the knowledge of the Creator, brought it full circle for him. Subhanallah. So, what did you think of the episode? Let us know on our Facebook or Instagram page. You go to Facebook, type in Big Muslim Family, or on Instagram at Big Muslim Family, one word. So, on the next episode, we will be speaking with Brother Nabil, who will be sharing with us about growing up in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And I want to take this opportunity to say a big, massive thank you to all of you brothers and sisters listening to this. Once again, I'm Brother Mark Adam. Inshallah, I will see you in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.